that each video, so the amount of content production across 17 countries is not 17 times, but it's at least 3 or 4 times, right? Because you want to sort of customize it for each cluster of countries. And so that also is actually done very, very efficiently and effectively if you use technology. So that's the second thing that allows you to actually go and compete at scale. The third thing, again, maybe boring, but logistics and supply chain play a very important role, especially as we are now going through war. You sort of see how logistics costs are going up and so on. But because we have now enough number of brands that are selling globally, it allows you to optimize your logistics and supply chain costs. So, in 4.5 years, we've been able to build a $200 million business across 10 brands, and actually profitably, which becomes quite difficult to do when you're a D2C business, right? So that's a bit of what we're trying to do at BrandMe. And I think if I were to sort of leave you with 2 or 3 takeaways, I would say number 1, I think technology is a great leveler. About 18 to 24 months ago, I would say it's impossible to compete with Unilever, with P&G, with anybody, because you don't have the necessary scale and the efficiency. Now with technology, it becomes a little bit more of a level playing field, and you can be a brand from India and compete globally. I think so. That's one takeaway. The second takeaway is brand building is changing. So changing along with the times, making sure that you are actually very adaptive and very learnable is going to be critical over the next 20 years to build consumer brands from India for the world. And I think it's a massive opportunity. If you think about what we have done with IT services, what we have done with pharma, I think the same thing will happen with consumer brands over the next 20 years. It's already happening in China, right? We all know BYD. We all know Luckin Coffee. So I think the same thing will start to happen from India for the world. And I think it's a massive opportunity if you're a D2C brand to be able to go global from day zero. Third thing I would say is marketing always used to be art and science combined. I think the level of data that's available allows you to make it much more personalized than it was before, especially as you think about community building, and all of the rest. Right? So these are the 3 big takeaways that I'd like you to sort of leave you with. I think it's possible to build large consumer brands from India for the world. And I think it's a 20-year opportunity. And I think technology allows you to do it very efficiently and effectively. So maybe I'll pause here. I don't know if there are 1 or 2 questions. I'm happy to take them. So I think I had about 15 minutes, taken 10. Any questions? Yep. Yep. So the question is, are you referring to AI? I don't think it's only AI. I think AI as an enabler in some processes is good. But I would say, let me take ads, right? AI is a 12-month phenomenon, 18 months, where you've actually had a lot of increase in compute and reduction in costs, right? That allows you to sort of do many of it. But frankly, 24 months ago, we were using rule-based ads engine. The rules were generated by human beings and supervised by human beings. It's still quite efficient. So I would say when applicable, use AI, but sometimes my worry is a lot of it is buzzwords. I think there are some problems that lend themselves a lot more, if you think about it, to AI and generative, like ChatGPT, large language models. There are many problems that may just actually be a good process solved and a good rule base solved, and I think that also adds a lot of value. Yep.
Hi, Satish from Brand Studio.
Yep.
So my question is, as a house of brands, how are you able to leverage common resources, whether it's your supply chain or warehousing,
yep,
or whether it's your sourcing? Are you able to, do you have enough brands across categories where you can leverage a single point of, expertise?
Yeah. No, so I think great question. So we actually think about it at 3 levels. There's brands, there's a cluster, and then there is brand.me overall. What we keep unique to the brand is the brand marketing, the brand story, product development. All of that I think needs to be unique. Otherwise you lose the character of the brand. At the cluster level, we try and commonize sourcing in particular. So, whether you're buying a cap or a bottle for either MyFitness or Majestic Pure Botanic Earth, you can still source together and you get economies of scale. At the overall BrandMe level, there are 3 levels of synergy that we have. The first is all the tech platforms that we build, which go across all the clusters, whether it's health and wellness or lifestyle. The second is operations. So all of our logistics, supply chain, warehousing is common. We send maybe 3 to 4 containers a month with all our brands consolidated. So we send full container loads from here to actually to the US or to Europe. So that becomes a big synergy. The third synergy actually, which most people don't think about, is people. And I think our ability to attract talent and the ability to sort of build what I would think of as a new age brand manager, who's a digital first brand manager, I think is quite interesting. And we're able to move people from smaller brands to larger brands, across clusters, etc. And I think that's actually been very, very helpful.
Ananth,
Yeah.
you spoke about a brand from India going global, right? So if let's say there's a brand and they're well established in India, they're doing quite okay.
Yep.
What would be like a step 1, step 2, step 3 for them to go global? Is it through the Amazon route, or is it direct, or do we do like a JV with someone? What's the step 1, 2, 3?
Yeah. So firstly, I think you have to sort of look at your market and make sure that there is, in fact, a substantial market where you're cost competitive. I'll give you an example. I think we have about 10-15% of our business is fashion. I think fashion would be a very hard category to go global because sizes are not the same, and therefore returns will be very different and so on. But in health and wellness, you certainly can, and the products are applicable. I think the easiest way to start and test the market is actually a global marketplace. You can take Amazon, you can take Noon, Namshi in the Middle East, whatever, but start because it's actually very low cost of experimentation. I would say that's step 1. If you're finding enough traction, especially in the US, Europe, etc., I think TikTok and D2C become a must. Now, the interesting thing is, by the way, Amazon and other large marketplaces allow you to do shipping from their warehouses for D2C and TikTok shops. So the inventory becomes fungible and very efficient. So D2C and TikTok shop would be the second. And the third phase, I would say, is going offline, which is much more organized in the Western world. And therefore, going to large format or small format retailers or grocery stores becomes, I think, these are the 3 steps. But I think there's a big opportunity.
Ananth. Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Chirag Vorti. I represent Ved Sanjeevani, and we are an Ayurvedic wellness brand specializing in Nabi science. We have about 4 lakh customers in 1 year. Now you spoke about going global from India from day 1. So Ayurveda and wellness means different things to different countries, and people think of it differently in the West as well. What would you recommend us from going from India and taking this Ayurveda, especially with Nabi science, to the Western world?
Yeah. So, I don't have an exact answer to your particular brand and question, but I would say I think Ayurveda in general is gaining popularity. And I think online selling allows you to tell stories much better. You can do videos much better. You can communicate your story much better. So I would say, how do I make the story come alive for different audiences? And how do I make some of the education really happen? So even before product sales at some level, how do you ensure actually that there's a difference between audience and consumers? And I think you need to build a larger audience before you get to consumers. So I think investing in the audience ahead of time, I think will be important.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Divya from Bambustan. We are a D2C company who sells premium lifestyle bamboo products. So my question is, in this today's competitive world, commanding customers' loyalty is becoming a challenge day by day.
Yeah.
So what would be your top 3 ideas to keep that to make that happen actually?
I think if I knew the answer to this question, but more seriously, I think the first is product quality. It seems very obvious, but at any price point, if you want to make sure that your product quality exceeds the value expectation in the minds of the consumer, I think that's step 1. Most people don't get that fully. I think that's product, packaging, and post-opening experience, right? And interesting way is depending on the category, what is the percentage repeat to your brand, I think will be an important metric. I think that's probably the single biggest thing you can do. The second is a little bit of what I was answering earlier. I think consumer journeys matter. So how you stay in touch with consumers and not just transact with them is another important way of buying loyalty. So, especially in purchases that are not continuous. So, if I, for example, take Botanic Earth, which is our hair care product, it's a little easier, right? Because, if your hair care works, your regimen works, you don't usually change. So, if the product works, you'll reorder it at some point of time. So, it happens more naturally. We also have a gardening brand, which is small, called Trust Basket, which we actually sell. There it becomes a lot harder because these are not purchases that are repeat purchases. You buy once, you may not buy again, right? Or a home storage solution, as the case may be, or whatever, right? There, being in touch with the consumer and the audience with content over time is going to be important. One rule of thumb is, for every product sale, can you sort of get to 10 to 12 times of connect with the consumer on content? If you do, I think then there is top of mind recall. So how do you do that frugally without spending lots of money on marketing? I think is very important as a skill. I would say these are the two things that I've seen people do. But I don't think there's an easy answer there. So
I understand. Thank you so much.
Sure. Great. Well, sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I think offline retail is critical. So the way I think about it is there are breakpoints. So if you think about a brand doing north of 100 crores a year in revenue in the Indian context, or I would say $50-60 million in the US context, you need to be offline. Without that, I think the product doesn't become real. The consumer doesn't get touch and feel. The DNA of what it takes to be successful offline is often different than the DNA of what a company does to be successful online. So one big thing I would do is to make sure that you get the right talent and capability, right? I mean, as we think about our offline push, for example, in the US, we actually have a local offline team which is filled with ex-Walmart or ex-Target or whatever people, right, who have actually lived and done that before. Otherwise, I think putting a bunch of people who are very digital first to run an offline business becomes very difficult. But I think it's critical. I do think the world will move to omni with inventory and consumer as the two things that are the connecting threads. And I think sort of making that work is important. Sure. Great. Any other questions, folks? Okay. Great. Yeah, I know. Thank you very much.